Hello and welcome to We Make Success Happen. Today, with amazing human, Sophie Ripple. Hello.
Sophie Ripple?
Yes! Sophie Ripple.
I like it. But
That's probably what you are like on my...
Mrs. Ripple.
This is the We Make Success Happen podcast.
This is the We Make Success Happen podcast with Matt Callanan.
This next one is an amazing video I was sent about a guy called Matt Callanan.
An amazing and inspiring soul who goes by the name of Matt Callanan.
Hello and welcome to We Make Success Happen. Today with Sophie Rae from Ripple.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
And you may wonder why we're laughing because I called her Sophie Ripple first off.
Mrs. Ripple.
So you're the founder of this amazing shop, but it's more kind of like a lifestyle that you're introducing called Ripple. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, of course. Ripple is my business, my creative baby at the moment, I guess. I birthed it last year. It sounds disgusting, but yeah, it's all my heart and soul has gone into this. And Ripple and the name kind of came to me as an idea to how we can all do smaller things, and collectively, if we all did something small, how that would ripple out. And the ripple effect would be that we would consciously all be doing something a lot more better for the planet and for people as well. So, that's the business. We're a zero waste store. We're on Albany Road in Roath in Cardiff, and it's doing very well and it's thriving, and we're 11 months old. Yeah, it's a really big, conscious lifestyle change for me. So it's really lovely to put business out into the world that makes me feel good and makes other people feel good.
What gave you the whole idea, or what was the trigger that kind of sparked this whole journey?
It's a bit of a cliche, but did you watch Blue Planet 2? 2017.
I did. It's very
yeah,
good,
I mean,
yeah.
But there's even its own like catchphrase now, like Blue Planet effect, and everybody just wanted to do what David Attenborough told them to do, which was be a better human, really. And that final episode of the season was the kind of culmination, and then said, actually, look at how disgusting our oceans have become because of humanity. And I remember just having the worst sinking feeling in my stomach that I couldn't look at my life and how I was consuming and be proud of it. And I just didn't do everything drastically, but I remember thinking, I can definitely do more. And then that just really rippled into me suddenly having very conscious habits around how I shopped and how I showed up in work, and how I want the kind of conversations I wanted to include, instead of sitting quietly when everyone joked about or, looked at their latest Primark haul and brought that out. I remember thinking, well, I could not say anything, or I could actually use this moment to say, that's pretty shit now, isn't it? Shouldn't we all be looking at different ways? And yeah, Blue Planet really helped. I lived in London at the time. Just, it's quite a lonely experience, I guess, but you're surrounded by so much money. It's just mass consumerism. And I was working in corporate, and lots of waste was going on in the environment I was working in. And I was part of it, and I just didn't really want to be a part of it anymore. So when something changes so drastically, like a moral compass changes, I don't think it happens, I don't think, overnight. I think it's actually a very small series of events that happens until you suddenly look and you realize you've changed your opinion on something. And it's not until somebody maybe asks you what you think about something, or you hear somebody say something and think, no, I don't believe that anymore. And that's kind of what started to happen. So I don't think I had a lightning bolt moment, but I certainly remember thinking, oh, I don't think that anymore. And then that's how I started changing how I shopped and consumed and talked to people about it.
So it was David then that helped.
Good old Dave.
Helped the change.
Good old Dave. God, I hope he lives forever.
So when did you decide to, at that point, give up your current job and start this whole new pathway?
So life happens alongside our careers, and normally that's what throws us the curveball. So I remember living in London. I was working in a job I loved, actually. I was deputy editor on a women's magazine, and it was a conscious magazine. It was an ethical title. And I remember I started getting lots of wonderful press releases coming through about somebody making something called wax wraps, which I'd never heard of. And somebody else was coming up with the idea of changing mushrooms into a fabric, and somebody else was using pineapple leather for trainers. And I just thought, oh my God, these people are amazing. What am I doing? And I was happy enough because I was sharing the message in the magazine, so I was passing it on. But I still thought, I could be doing more. And then my husband had a job, and he decided he was going to stay put in Wales, and we were currently doing long distance at the time. And I just thought, well, the job's fun, but obviously this long distance relationship isn't doing too great. So I remember coming back to Wales in March last year, 2018, and kind of came back. I remember my journey over the Severn Bridge I was just proper ugly crying, just thinking, oh my God, I'm coming back to Wales and we're all so far behind. And the kind of further west you go out of London, the later everything happens, really. And I remember thinking, well, Bristol will be okay, but Cardiff, oh my God. Because when I'd left Cardiff 6 years previously, it really wasn't the city it is now. It didn't have the creative culture. It didn't have that industry. It didn't have the support for a creative industry, which I'm thrilled now that the city is definitely taken stages and it's definitely stepped up, but it really wasn't. It's why I left, actually. And I came back and I just thought, well, I'll probably just freelance. And I said, if I can freelance, if I have a laptop, I can freelance from anywhere, as I was a writer and editor. And I came back and the city didn't really have that plan for me. So everything else kind of, I say to quite a few people that Ripple has actually been very easy for me in terms of the idea came and then everything else fell into place to the point where I couldn't really have chosen to not do it in the end. It all became, everything just slotted into place. But I really didn't come back with the intention to set up Ripple. I came up with the intention to do something that gave me a lot of joy, that I actually was proud of the work I was putting out. I didn't want to write about the Kardashians or the latest diet culture. I kind of had already decided what I was willing to write about. So I thought I'll create the content myself. I'll talk about all the wonderful new ethics and sustainable businesses that I wanted to champion. I thought maybe I'd have an e-magazine. I thought maybe I will talk about all these wonderful new natural beauty products. And my mind just went down the road of, well, wouldn't it be lovely if I had somewhere to take all these lovely pictures of all the new stock I was talking about? And my next thought was, wouldn't it be cool to have a shop? And that's kind of how my mind worked. And 2 days later, I was on a business course. And a few weeks later, I'd set up the Instagram account and it just went from there.
Wow. So you're definitely a sort of action girl. Have an idea and then just take action.
Yeah, a bit of an intuitive hit. And then I actually try and do something when I'm in my intuitive mind before logic kicks in. So if that something feels really, really good in my body and I just think, God, that felt like the really good download. So if that's a really good idea, I normally try and action it very quickly before fear and everything else kicks in and says, oh, should it be you? And is that really going to be ready for the city? Which that did all kick in weeks later, but thankfully I'd already said on Instagram I'm opening, so I couldn't really take it back.
So what, you were taking action before fear kicked in, really? I
think so. I think I started doing things like, I remember setting up that Instagram account pretty much a day or two after I'd had the idea, because it felt so right. The idea, the name had come to me. I had an idea of what it would look like, how we would work, how I would talk to people about it. And it just felt perfectly aligned. And I remember saying, I just put it on Instagram, we're coming to Cardiff. And then within 24 hours, we had 1,000 followers. And I thought, oh shit, I can't go back now, can I? And that's probably a good thing, because within those coming weeks, logic really kicked in. How do I get the money? I don't have the money. I don't have a trust fund. Blimey, sustainability is expensive, I thought to myself, and all these things I wanted to do, shops, business rates, all these very niggling fears started kicking in. I'm not worthy to do it. Who will listen to me? What right do I have to do it? And by that point, I'd already committed to it. So it was a pretty good job I did have the Instagram account. Otherwise, I probably would have just changed my mind.
So what, the Instagram account, do you think it validated the idea for you? Or do you think it created a commitment that you just had to follow through?
I just became very accountable to somebody else, which was the city. The buzz started, media started getting in touch very quickly because it was the first to the city. I'd already appeared on a few radio programs and had a few interviews, and they were asking me all questions about, how did you come up with this idea? And I felt a bit ashamed to say, I thought of it last week. But that really then, my action when I was in it, really in my intuition, helped. Then every time somebody asked, I had the answer straight away, which means I knew I was doing right. I didn't have to stumble over why I was doing it. My why has never really faltered. I knew what I wanted Ripple to be, and then I just didn't know how to execute it. But they didn't really care about that. They just wanted to know that I was a businesswoman and I had this idea, and suddenly I was going to change the landscape of the city. That's really what their news story was about. And I realised, this is a news story. Nobody's done it yet. the Cardiff Council aren't doing enough in terms of how waste management works. Welsh Government had these big plans for their 2023 goals and how they want to be carbon neutral. And yeah, it just all fell into place really easily. And that's why I always think it's still a good idea. And that's why it's continuing to thrive, because everybody wanted some way to make change. They just didn't have an outlet. And then Ripple has given them that outlet. So I just think the idea came to me and I was open for it. I think it could have gone to anybody else.
So you'd never run a business before?
No. I still feel like I run a business. I really, this is all making it up as I go along.
Do you honestly not feel like you run a business at the moment then?
Well, I know I do, but I still, every single day, there's something new that throws me in the deep end. And every single day I am very honest and vulnerable with the team and say, I have no idea how to do this. You're going to have to be patient with me. Most of the time now we do it together collectively. There's still big decisions that come back to me, but I normally just try and sit quietly with that decision and check that it's right for the business. I was a journalist, and before that I went to university. I was studying drama. Business is never, corporate business in particular, ROIs and all that kind of, I still don't know any terminology, and I normally just rock up to a meeting and just put my heart on my sleeve and say, do you want to collaborate? I've never really been able to talk about finances. My accountant, God love her. It's hard work. I really struggle with maths still. All these things that business asks you to be. Business is quite cold. It asks a lot of you, numbers and structure, and
it's very analytical. It's not really emotional, is it?
It isn't. And I think that probably needs to change, because the amount of emotionally creative people that would thrive in business, they don't even know how to enter it, because so many things get put up in front of you straight away. I remember in that first few weeks, the idea of you have to have a business plan. I didn't have a clue what I wanted the business to look like in 5 years. I just wanted to open. I still don't have a business plan. I still haven't created anything for Ripple. But it doesn't really like that. It doesn't like that, especially if you need money and you need a loan, or you need some kind of bank funding or something like that. They really want to know, where do you see this going? How are you going to make this happen? And the idea of faith and trust in a business is just not good enough for their books. So there's a lot of people missing out of business because I think it's just too scary for them to enter that corporate white middle class world of a suit. And I've never worn a suit in my life.
Please don't wear a suit.
I can't imagine anything worse. It's difficult and lots of people come in. I think that's why lots of people have been attracted to Ripple and the story of Ripple and my story within Ripple, because they've seen somebody that is very similar to them turn business on its head and bring a lot of vulnerability to it, which is that this is really hard, but anybody want to help me do it with me? And a lot of people have said yes, thankfully, and it's thriving because of it.
So you successfully got funding to start it initially through Kickstarter. Do you want to talk through what made it really successful for you, and how much did you raise?
So in the end, we did £33,312 in 13 days.
That's amazing.
It was. I can't really remember much of the 2 weeks. It went by in quite a blur, but I do know I didn't sleep an awful lot. And it was probably the most emotionally exhausting fortnight of my life. I had no kind of concept of fundraising before that. I didn't really know much about, Kickstarter have these wonderful tools actually to get you started, but they'll tell you all about how you should have probably 30% of your target already in the bank before you start, in terms of you should already have it from investment or funders that are already ready to give you a little bit of money.
Okay.
And they give you all the tips and the tricks about how you should be emailing all these people beforehand. And I didn't do that either. I'm sorry, this is so not helpful to anyone that's
going to fundraise. What's your formula then, do you think?
It wasn't a formula. It was just I really believed in the power of the message. I was very comfortable on camera. We made a really good video, which I think is obviously key, and Kickstarter or crowdfund or any other platform. I don't want to keep championing the two names that people know, because there are lots of others out there, but any platform that's worth their salt will already tell you how to succeed, because of course if you succeed and reach target, they do as well, because they're taking a cut of it. So I can't imagine anybody who wants to succeed wouldn't be able to find that knowledge out there. They do say have a fantastic video. It really helps. It did. Knowledge of a zero waste shop was very unknown. Nobody really understands still maybe what that now they might do, but even a year ago, the kind of concept of what the store would be was very difficult. So to try and explain that to somebody, a video just encapsulated everything I could have told you in an hour into just 3 minutes of me saying, this is why we're doing it. I'm willing to do it for you. I think that's what people really miss out with crowdfunding and Kickstarter. They don't realize that you're not actually after the money. I think the money is the bonus. You're asking for them to trust that you will deliver on the promise you make. Because most people, and I think 35% of our pledges, I think we had about 1,200 pledges in the end, about 30% of them didn't even request a reward. So it's a fantastic way to get a reward. Obviously, if you want to support a business but also want to get something out of it, great, choose a reward. But most of the people, they'll commit to you because they really want what you're going to say you're going to do. So when you talk to camera, when you tell them what you're doing and how you promote the campaign, it's really about, this will not happen without this money. It's not kind of like, I don't really want to dip into my savings. Anybody else want to pay? This is if this doesn't happen, Ripple won't happen. And I think everybody understood the gravity of that. This wasn't me saying, I just want a little bit of extra help. This was saying, I want to do it and I'll really work really hard for you to do it, but I can't do it by myself. And I think that really came across. It turned into the most incredible, ethical, sustainable shop by the end of it, because everybody now started just looking at the amount of makers in the community that really stepped up. So the amount of people that would just say, hey, I've got a business or I'm a jewelry maker, here's a pair of earrings, do you want to add this to your rewards? Most people in the end just started looking through the rewards to see, because we were coming up to it was summer by then, so people might have been thinking, well, I'm Christmas shopping, I might as well help Ripple and get a lovely pair of earrings for somebody. Or I think rewards have a huge part to play in a successful campaign. I see lots of restaurant businesses, which I'm always a bit wary of, when they'll say, pledge £30 and you'll get £30 off your first meal when you sit in with us. But of course, that means that for your first few months, you're not actually taking any profit in. So you really want to make sure that your business isn't becoming unsustainable because you offer too much in a Kickstarter. I think if the message is strong enough, people should want to donate without a reward. But for those that maybe need a little bit more incentive, that's where a fantastic reward is for. We hit on day 11, I think we hit target, and then the rest is you can just keep overrunning. So by that point, we'd said, well, we've got our target, let's get a nut butter machine. And then that's what we stretch funded for. So that's why our amazing machine is sat in Ripple, because we had that extra money to start with. I don't remember much of the 2 weeks. I remember being on social media a lot. I think the power of free marketing was just insane. I think the whole city felt like it was talking about it. But then lots of people have still said to me in the last year, oh, I wish I'd known about you then. I think, blimey, what could we have stretch funded to had I maybe put more effort in? I'm not sure. I couldn't have done any more by myself. Maybe you need a team by that point. But social media was definitely the most incredible tool for us. We didn't put ourselves on the side of buses. I didn't do any media during that time. I couldn't do any media. I just had to try and survive and sleep and just keep pushing it. And yeah, it felt, I talked to a lot of people in those 2 weeks. I think it all comes down to, do they believe that you'll act? Because money is precious, it's people's biggest commodity. And I think for somebody to say, even like, I can only give £5 is still an investment into the faith they have in you. And I just think I really put that across, that I was willing to do anything. If they could help me, then I could help them in the city. And I think that's how it worked in the end.
I think it was incredible to watch, because you created this amazing campaign. And I think what also worked in your favor is almost you made Ripple a community from the start. You just said, it's not about me. No. It's about starting this new kind of community and lifestyle, a new way of thinking, new way of purchasing things. And I think people really bought into that. I think that helped share it out, didn't it?
Absolutely. It was definitely there's a seismic shift happening at the moment consciously. And I feel everybody is looking for, whether they're just waking up to the fact that single-use plastic is bad, or they're just waking up to the idea that who made my clothes and all this kind of mass fast fashion. It's a big shock, culture shock to a lot of people when they suddenly have that realization, because there's the shock that, God, I've been lied to for a long time by mass marketing and advertising. And when you start asking better questions, which is down to the individual to get to that point, you can't push them. When they suddenly hit that and then start asking better questions, the problem is you then ask the better question, you realize there's nowhere yet, or there's not enough places yet to help you live better. Because obviously everyone is on profit margins. They're all looking for the most to make, how can they make the most money and give the least quality product? And then somebody is paying for that. And then suddenly when you realize that, you look around and you think, God, my kitchen, my bathroom, my bedroom, my wardrobe, everything is just full of somebody else's hard work, or it's at the expense of somebody else. And when you get to that point, I think then people started going, well, what do I do now? Because that's quite a huge conundrum to be in. I really do want to start shopping a little bit better or shopping a little bit more consciously and ethically, but really, where am I going for that? Because most people just go straight to Amazon. Well, of course, that's not ethical either. Just because you suddenly want a metal straw, buying it from somewhere in China on Amazon, it's still part of the cog, it's still part of the wheel.
Yeah.
So you then have to really start thinking, well, who is that benefiting? And yeah, I guess that's how I really wish I remembered more of the campaign. I wish I remember. I look back sometimes, and a year on, I get all this time last year, and I think, oh God, I really wasn't sleeping this time last year. But yeah, it was just of its moment. It was of its time. Blue Planet had been, everybody was starting to ask better questions, and then I think I just provided an option for somebody who wanted to do better, but they just didn't know how. And I think the same kind of Kickstarters could happen again now, and they still wouldn't make it. And it's not because I wouldn't be part of it, even though I was integral to it. It was just because it was of its moment. And I think some of the best crowdfunding campaigns are definitely timed, and they're just in the air. You can tell people are waiting to do something, and then somebody just brings the idea to life, and I think that's what that was.
And of course, is someone like you that takes the action, has the idea, takes action, you become the start of that domino.
Yeah,
start the ripple.
Yes. I am Mrs. Ripple, Sophie Ripple. It took a lot. I mean, I had to sit with a lot of my own. I had to let go of a lot of my own ego, and really, I think I remember thinking straight away, not even understanding what not-for-profit meant. I already knew Ripple would be not-for-profit. I knew it was so much bigger than me. Ripple might be my career for many years to come, but it will take many different forms. It won't always be a shop, and I think as the need for Ripple dilutes, which I hope it will, because I can't think of anything worse than Ripple still be in a shop in 10 years' time. If that's the case, something's gone drastically wrong. It means that the big companies have not taken notice. And if I'm still the one having to push 10p porridge oats across the city unpackaged, something has gone wrong. If Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrison's, if the big dogs aren't really stepping up in 5-10 years' time, yeah, it's not. I can't hit them. I can't reach that many people. You can spread a message online, but it still takes action. You need enough people to now start changing how they shop. And I'm not accessible to everybody. We're one shop on Albany Road. I need everybody to be able to shop like this in the supermarket to really make seismic change. So I remember thinking very early on, don't make it about you. Give it to the community, because actually they're the ones that will. The success is down to whether they show up or not. I will show up every single day for this. I know I will. It's in my bones to just keep trying. But if they don't show up too, this won't work. So I remember thinking very early on, just give it to them and give the power to them in how they want to show up. And then I think that people feel that, and they feel really proud to shop in Ripple. They feel a sense of achievement, empowerment. I can't think of anything lovelier than knowing that your groceries, something as simple as buying coffee, could be helping somebody that's suffering from modern slavery. I can't think of anything nicer than thinking what I drink every day, very unconsciously, or the food I eat, or the bananas I know we don't sell fresh food, but down to everything. If you could just make your daily habits mean something, I can't think of anything more empowering than that. So I think that's just what Ripple has given people, and that's why it's thriving, because they catch on to that and they're just desperate to hold on to it. It's a lovely feeling. So
I'm really big into making small incremental positive changes that can have a better impact on the world. So what can a listener that might be anywhere in the UK or anywhere around in the world, what kind of small things can they change to have less impact on our planet?
I think to make them sustainable changes, you need to really stock take your life. It really comes down to wake up in the morning, and as you go through your day, make a mental note or have a notepad and pen and just think, what did I use today? And go through the day. And I bet there's so much people don't realize they're even using. They don't realize that coffee run they do every single morning, what's gone into making that cup and lid if they're not taking a reusable. They might wake up in the morning and say, you go to the bathroom, you go to the toilet, your tissue paper. Did you know that your loo paper could be doing better for the world? Did you know that the toothbrush that you're using and I think if somebody just went through their one day, and that's just one person, not even a family, and then just say, right, tomorrow I will change one thing. It's so simple. It's such, because then the one thing that you've decided to change is probably the easiest thing you can think of, which means that's probably the one that will stick the longest. And then you don't have to come back to that list for another month, another year. It doesn't really matter. Change really needs to come in its own time. It needs to feel very natural. There's no point going home and doing a massive stock take of your house and being like, all right, everything that's plastic, get out of the house. Plastic's not the problem. It's plastic's an incredible, miraculous ingredient. It's amazing because it lasts forever, and it's terrible because it lasts forever. But think of medical supplies across the world. They're reliant on plastic supplies. This is not a bad material. It's just the single-use side of it, the disposableness of it, the convenience of it. That's really what Ripple is pushing for people to have better understanding of that. And I think if you could say, right, well, we use 2 rolls of cling film a week in our house. Maybe just find one alternative for cling film. Or if you just said, I need a new toothbrush next week anyway. I was already going to buy a new toothbrush. Just buy the bamboo one instead. Like, it doesn't need to be, I'm just going to go through the house and just spend a fortune on new products, because again, that's not the point. It's meant to be using what you have and using it well and reusing it. And then just looking for ways you can refuse something tomorrow. Next time you wake up, could you, I don't know, if you do go to your favorite kind of coffee place, the chances are they're already probably offering a discount for a reusable cup anyway, which means, I'd take a mug to a coffee shop. If you're going to drink it straight away, what do you even need a lid for? Like, humans have lived with mugs for quite a long time. Like, we don't need a straw and a cup and this wonderful, magic, fancy, sustainable product. We just need basic things and just know how to use them well. And we don't need fancy cups. And if you've got an amazing Tupperware at home, use that. And it's just not cool enough, is it? It's not for the gram. Everybody wants something that's fit for the gram. But the truth is, sustainability is looking at what you already have and just deciding to commit to using it. And then if you've got something that once it breaks, do you have the finances then, or a little bit extra, to put more money into a better quality product? And the chances are that better quality product won't be made of cheap plastic. So going back to kind of our grandparents' days, finding something made from steel or from fantastic wood or something like that, they're probably going to be a better material that will mean you won't need to replace it so much anyway. Because the kind of throwaway culture that we're in is that we'll buy it for a season, a weekend, a festival, and then you think, well, I don't need it after that. But obviously, if you spent more money on something, you maybe look after it a little bit better. Think of an item of clothing now that you really wanted to invest in. If you didn't do secondhand, say you wanted a beautiful new, jacket or suit jacket, if you spent more money on it, wouldn't you look after it better? Wouldn't you sew that button back on when it came off? All those little things that change our mindset about how we consume. I just think that's what's slowly changing in our culture, is that we're suddenly looking at ways to upcycle more. And that's coming back into fashion and trend, is that we want to be, we're looking for heirlooms and things to be passed down to us. And there's more of a pride now in wearing Nan's old jumper or cardigan because it's come back into fashion, and that's fine. Fashion trends definitely help. It's certainly helping this mass wave of green consumerism. And if that's what gets you there and you need to do it for a trend, then I'm not really going to argue how you get to the decision to shop better. I guess for me, it's just will you stay there when you're there? Will you commit to making that, instead of thinking, well, it's not really trendy anymore?
Being consistent.
Yeah, because that's actually what's going to make collective conscious change. I think it's not enough for us all to just be like, oh, when all the news of the rainforest, Amazon rainforest, came out not long ago, and we realized the news really wasn't documenting what was happening enough. And then suddenly that shock of, oh my God, the Earth's lungs effectively is massively under threat. And you realize, and lots of people will be like, well, what's me having a metal straw got to do with it then? How can I help the rainforest? But of course, if everybody started using that, if everybody stopped using something, if everyone started refusing something, yeah, that would actually make a difference, because they wouldn't be chopping down the trees to begin with. They're only doing it because consumerism tells them there's demand for this shit, this terrible product. Enough people are buying them. So of course we need to keep chopping trees down for that. But imagine, I don't know, the big CEOs of companies just went, oh my God, why has everybody stopped buying this? They wouldn't need to chop it down anymore. They wouldn't need to pollute the ocean. I think it's really in the hands of the little people. That's why I feel like seismic shift is going to come from the grassroots programs. It's going to come from shops like Ripple, who are making change on the ground. There's not much point when somebody says to me, are you going to go for policy? Are you going to try and change the Welsh government? No, I can't think of anything worse than going into politics. I can't think of anything worse than wanting to make change but having too much legislation stopping me. I'd rather make lots of change in my community, and then that community makes such a shock to the council that the council have to pay attention. And then when the council pay attention, they're going to go back to the government and say, blimey, Roth is looking really green at the moment, or we're noticing a drastic drop in people's recycling bags. They're just not putting as much waste out as possible, which sounds ridiculous, but I get messages every single week of families who are doing that. And they're noticing that they're putting maybe 1 bag a week out of mixed recycling for a family instead of 4. I just think, wouldn't that be lovely if the council went, what is going on here? Like something is gone, something's changed, and we're going to have to change. But there's so many more than us. There's so many more people in the community than there are in government. So I think if the government realised that we were all changing, wouldn't they make legislation to fit that? And that's the way I
You'd
see
hope
it
so,
anyway.
wouldn't
I'd
you?
hope so.
Yeah.
I don't know about it, but yeah, I'll hope. That's why I keep showing up, because I'm sure that will happen.
Do you want to talk through some of the things that you've got in your shop then that they can, like, people can swap out that they're using at the moment?
Okay, cool. So I think of it in a few different sections. So obviously we've got lots and lots of whole foods in gravity containers and scoop bins. So the idea is you bring any container. We get asked all the time, like, oh, I can't bring plastic in. Of course you can bring plastic in. If you've got a fantastic Tupperware at home, or even a container from last night's Chinese, bring that in, make sure it's clean and dry. The idea is you weigh it first empty. You fill it with whatever ingredient you want. So we're talking, when I say whole foods, I mean things like nuts, cereals, flours, all these things that you buy in big bags in the supermarket, but you might not need all of it. Lots of people say, how many times have you done a recipe and you need a small amount of sugar or flour, and then a year later that bag is still at the back of the cupboard and you have no idea whether it's growing something, and you don't really know whether to use it again, so then it gets chucked out. So it's great for things like that. So if you're just feeding a certain group of people, or you want to bulk buy to save money, it's great to do that. So basically, weigh the item empty, weigh the box empty, fill it, and then you come to the till, and we basically just charge you for the weight of the ingredient inside instead of your packaging. Lots of people don't know, in terms of food shopping, that about a quarter to a third, it depends on where you're shopping, of your weekly expenditure in a supermarket is probably packaging. So
that's a massive stat, isn't it?
Huge. And things like, people are really noticing the difference with, take our herbs and spices. Obviously powder doesn't weigh very much. And you realise that, the small £1 bottle you would keep rebuying when you ran out of ground cumin or something. Every time somebody comes back and refills that small bottle, it's costing them about 20 pence instead of £1 every time. And it's huge money in just the packaging. So that's the food side of it. We obviously also have our nut butter machine as well for freshly ground nut butter, which is, very, very addictive.
You're very proud of the...
I am very proud of our nut butter machine. It's just fun. It's just such a good... It's so tasty. It just never ceases to amaze me how good just nuts ground can be. No palm oil, no salt, no sugar, no nothing, just ground nuts. So that's always a big thing for people. And then I always think outside of food, because food is always the in for lots of people. But when you start to think about what's going into your food, and maybe the palm and all that kind of additives are in food, people normally start questioning what's going into their skincare. So they then start thinking, well, lots of people look around their bathrooms and they'll say, well, pretty much I've got maybe 20 plastic bottles in the bathroom, shampoo, a conditioner, a body wash, some kind of shaving foam, some kind of my plastic disposable blades are there, a razor is there, and my toothbrush and my toothpaste. And that's then something else that we offer, lots of sustainable alternatives to that. So we have obviously plastic-free rule for our beauty products. So lots of them come in glass or aluminium. We have lots of refills then for laundry, liquids, fabric conditioners, washing up liquid, all these things. And then one of the other things they think of is they look around their kitchen and they think, well, I use a plastic brush to clean my dishes if I don't have a dishwasher, or maybe my dishwasher tablets are in plastic. Maybe we could just have powder. They look around at all the different things they're using, and we can offer lots of natural ways. That means that when you're finished doing your dishes, maybe you can have a coconut fibre brush, and then that can go straight into food waste. And then the last thing people do, and it is normally the last one because it's the biggest expenditure, is they start looking at who made their clothes. And they start looking at the natural fibres that are really, really noticeably absent now on the high street. Lots of stuff is made from polyester, and you'll feel it already in your fabrics. You can feel quality natural fibre just from touch. And our grandparents would have definitely have worn a lot of natural fibres, fantastic wool. They would have used a lot of, hemp, despite being known collectively as the most hippie of fabric. It's such a fantastic ingredient. Bamboo in fantastic underwear, and we have amazing organic bamboo clothing. It's so soft, it's so breathable, it washes so well, and it's the fastest growing plant on the planet. So it's a fantastic renewable energy for fabric makers to use. And I just think when you wear it, you'll feel fantastic in terms of it hangs better. It's just, I don't think we realize actually how good fabric could feel anymore, because we've just been taught. Yeah, we love, as a consumer culture, we love kind of that throwaway fabric. But of course, it's not being thrown away. Well, it might be thrown away literally, but it's not going anywhere. It's not wearing down at all. So then, we start then bringing in ethical fashion. So we start supporting local makers, and I've got lots of lovely people now finding us saying, I make these amazing things in Bridgend or Swansea, or I'm in a studio in Cardiff and I make these amazing linen products. And I really underestimated how fantastic the maker market was in South Wales and Southwest. And I think my eyes have just been open to all these incredible people. And now I just want to champion them, and I just want to tell more people about them. And I think that's kind of how Ripple is where it is now. But of course, the scope for the future is just to bring so many more people into the shop in terms of if they want to stock a product or they want to champion something. I can't think of anything better now than just giving it to the people and saying, what do you want to see? And I do that quite often. I'll ask people in the shop, what would you like? We have a kind of recommendation book if they want to see a particular product or they've seen a product that they'd like us to stock, and I'll do my research, see if it's actually as good as it says it is. Because of course, we're in a world of greenwashing at the moment as well, because the green dollar is a big chunk of the market, and there are people who are doing it for the right reasons. And just like anything, there are lots of people who are now just cottoning on to the money that might be in sustainability. And I think when I say ask better questions, it's really ask better questions, because something like, might as well call out the brand, something like Persil or what's that fabric conditioner called? The washing up liquid. I don't even know what it's called. I've got Fairy. I've got Ariel in my head.
Fairy, yeah.
Fairy, making suddenly all their bottles now out of ocean plastic. Somebody might be picking that up on the supermarket shelf and feeling really ethically good about themselves. Oh, I buy my Fairy now, and it's saving the turtles. But really, how much plastic from the ocean is in that bottle? And is it just a fantastic marketing campaign that they can put on because they've used 3% of ocean plastic?
Because who regulates that?
Absolutely.
Or is it self-regulated?
I don't even know. And I think to myself, well, now clearly the better option was just refill it. Find somewhere to refill it. Ripple is not the only shop like this. I mean, I know there's already probably at least 100 shops now across the UK in the last year that have popped up, because I'm part of groups and I talk to people, and I get told a lot when people are opening new shops, which is amazing. And I'll tell customers, well, where do you live? And I know there's somewhere closer to you. You don't even have to drive to Ripple. When you can ask a better question, but then you can ask an even better question. And it's really, when a brand is doing something so good for the planet, they cannot but want to tell you about it. So when you ask a brand, and it's so easy now on social media to contact the CEO of a company, it's never been easier to say, you're in charge, you're on the chair or the board of Tesco, kind of like, really, what is in your product, or what is are you really sustainably sourcing your palm oil? You don't even have to write a letter anymore. You just tweet them. You just can ask. And if they're not ready to shout about it, something's wrong. Something's amiss. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. And I just think I think brands who are doing it really well know how to tell you about it. And they're really proud of every single line, every single step down that production line, down to the person they're paying better than the national average, that the factory is carbon neutral, that the way it's processed, the way it's packaged and sent to me as a stockist is plastic free, that it is turning up in recycled wrap, and it doesn't look it doesn't look aesthetically beautiful, but it's actually ethically well done. And I think that, the brands that are doing it really well, they're really keen to tell you about it now, because it's a fantastic marketing tool at the moment. Who doesn't want to be greener in their business? And if you're not tapping into that market as well, something's amiss. So I think asking better questions is a big thing I would always ask people to do. And I think the shop's growing. It's doing really well. We have a team of 8. I'm part of a team of 8, and we were pretty much from the off. I didn't realize how busy it would be so fast. And we've probably hit capacity now.
Yeah, because do you want to talk about some of the numbers of people that have come through the door?
I mean, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head customers, but I can certainly tell you that in August, Ripple passed, it was about a 2-year target for me, but we did it in 9 months, where Ripple has now surpassed 1 million items through the till, which means that means 1 million items of single-use plastic have been kept out of circulation, because it means that every time somebody has either refilled their their beans or their oats or bought some nut butter in a jar that they brought from home. It's another item that's not been added to the landfill. So that was a 2-year goal for me. So
Are you proud with that number?
Of course I am. Yeah. It's huge, but it does make me think I'm just one person. Like I just set up a shop and I think to myself, I've done that. And in terms of I've led the way and lots of people have helped me do that. But the city has done that in 9 months. It baffles me that Cardiff Council have not been able to do something that big. And I don't know if it's because they don't have the right marketing message. They don't have the right commitment to it. I don't know what it is, but I just think, my God, I'm one person. Imagine councils actually got on board with this. Imagine the government's really understood the power of this, because I can't hit every demographic. I can't find a way to make this accessible to everybody yet, because obviously there's a huge accessibility problem as well with sustainability. It has a cliched idea that it's for somebody with a lot of disposable income. And yeah, buying a more sustainable product normally means paying more for it up front. But the bigger picture is then you don't have to rebuy it, a few weeks down the line, or it's all catch-22. But I just think, my God, 1 million items in 9 months, and we're just one shop on Albany Road. I just thought, God, if this was in the hands of who had so much more buying power than I did, because I'm still buying everything on my laptop. I'm paying invoices every week. I'm on my Xero account. Like, I just think I don't have a marketing team. I don't have a finance team. All these huge corporations, you have like hundreds and hundreds of staff. Imagine they all had the same ethos that we did, how quickly the change could happen. And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. Like 1 million items in 9 months, that's huge. But now I've just got the bug that I'm just like, somebody else could be making this so much faster. The change could be happening so much faster. So it made me really proud, and it made me really angry in the same breath, because I just thought, God, I've done that. Now I just wish somebody else was ready to say, okay, the model works. Here's so much more you can do so much more with this if we help you. And unfortunately, you do need money to start these things. You need somebody behind green business. You need Welsh Government to say, here's 30,000 to open another shop on another high street. Here's 150,000. We want to see another 10 shops across the city in the next year. I just imagine they had done that when I was emailing them last year and nobody was replying to my emails. So I'm not going to stop, but there's a lot more that could be done if I had lots more help. So.
What would you say to those top CEOs and the people that could really make significant change quick to a mass market, but are so driven by profit, unfortunately?
I hear it all the time by somebody in the team, but I can't eat money. Who are you making money for, really? If your children can't, and the children of these CEOs, if they can't breathe clean air by 2030, which, don't trust me, look at the science, look at climate change. If they can't breathe clean air, if they can't play on a beach in 10, 15 years' time without the thought of tripping over a mountain of plastic or glass, and they can't swim in their sea or go to the local beach or park or anything, if they can't do the things that you take so naturally for granted now in 10, not even a generation's time, what are you making money for? What house are you going to buy? You're going to just be in a very lonely, beautiful big house. I just think if we could just all have more of a bigger picture mentality of really what are we making money for, and who is benefiting from the product I buy. I kind of have a 2-rule policy now with when I buy something, if I buy anything new, which doesn't happen often, but there is a time and a place for buying something new. And it's normally, can I thank directly the person who made this or grew this for me? So even if it's vegetables or the farmer's market or something, if you can look at somebody in the eye and just be like, this is a delicious ingredient, thank you for the time and effort gone into it. Or if you can message that brand and say, I love this item, thank you for paying the worker what you pay them. And most of the time, they might even be able to let you contact the person that stitched that product for you. Or I just think if everybody could have that rule, and like I always used to think, on the back of cigarettes packets now, it says, this is what your lungs could be like. Imagine on the back of every single label on an item in the high street, there was a picture of the 6-year-old that stood in a damp room for 10 hours, like sewing that hem. Imagine you could be confronted with that kind of picture every single time. And I think the way that the CEOs work when they don't think of this is because they don't understand that. They don't know what that means. They just sign off.
Almost blind to it, aren't they?
They don't understand who's actually making their money for them. And as a consumer, you don't understand that you are directly lying in the pocket of that person. You just see a new trend, a new product, a new fancy thing that you want, that you have told will make your life so much easier. And I just think if we could all just really start asking, who is actually benefiting from this product? Do I need it in the first place? It's going to take time, but I'm sure that if enough people like me start keep harping on about it, somebody will pay attention eventually.
Yeah, because how do you change the mindset of, people down the other end that might just go, well, I'm getting a T-shirt for £3 and a dress for under a tenner. How do you change both there? It's kind of habits and lifestyle, isn't it?
Huge,
but also, I suppose some of it with some people is just financial.
Absolutely. And this is what I mean by the accessibility issue. If you've got a single mum who's raising 3 children and she's not going to worry if bulk unpackaged oats are cheaper than her ones from her local supermarket, because the need and ease of going into a supermarket with 3 children is, it takes time and more effort to shop sustainably. But you have to, for me then, I might not yet be able to reach that person who buys their throwaway, lunch in a styrofoam still, has a plastic fork, has a plastic bottle, litters wherever they want to. I might not yet be able to reach that person, and that's fine. Maybe they're not in that place yet to hear why this is important, but there are a huge minority, I think they're majority of people who are actually really ready to make change. They just don't understand how easy it could be. They want somebody to guide them. They want it to be right next to them as the other option next to what they already buy. So instead of sending us to the shame corner of going to do you remember when veganism was still a bit kooky a few years ago, and you had to go to kind of the gluten-free section or the vegan section or the plant-based section, and it would be in the very far corner of a supermarket. They suddenly realised very quickly that wasn't going anywhere. And now the veggie burger is right next to the meat burger. So they're not asking you to kind of make more effort. And in a world of real convenience, it should be that easy for somebody to make a better choice. It should be that simple as going, that looks tasty, I'll have that tonight instead of the mass-produced meat burger. It should be that easy. So if bamboo toothbrushes were right next to the plastic ones, that mother of 3 who is worrying about money and worrying about time, if it was the same price because consumers had demanded it to be so, maybe she would just pick that up anyway. I just feel like in that sense, accessibility, it should be made very easy for the consumer to make a better change. And at the moment, if Ripple's the only thing that the city is currently offering, no wonder not enough people understand why it's important yet, because it's going to ask them to do too much. It's going to ask them to care too much. And we've just been told we don't need to care because nothing's wrong. We don't need to worry about the planet. We don't need to worry about the children who are so enclosed for us. We don't need to worry about them because we're kind of shielded from it. But if you were told it and you were shown it, I honestly don't think somebody's humanity wouldn't kick in. Because once you're shown that picture, you can definitely look at a picture and do the research that I can, and you can still choose to shop as you do. That is still conscious consumerism because you're consciously choosing to shop still like that. And that's fine. We're not the same people, but I don't hold a grudge against you because you've done the same research I have. You're just in a very different place to me. Most people, I'm almost certain that 9 out of 10 people would do the research I've done and could not make a change. There's that beautiful Maya Angelou quote, which is the need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind. Something, I'm probably massively butchered that, but it's something like that. And I remember thinking, because really, once you know something, you can't unknow it. You can't not know that product, that food, that jumper, whatever, somebody else is paying for it. And you can either sit with that and keep shopping like that, which a lot of people do. A lot of people suppress that need for change. Or what happens is it generally trickles to the top and then you can't suppress it enough. And then you do one thing to change. So maybe that's the thing. They're not yet ready to see it. They're not yet, or they do know it and they're suppressing it. And it's not my job to change everyone's opinion. It's not my job I'm not saving the world in that way. But enough people are just starting to know they want to do more. They just don't know how. And that's, I guess, where I come in and where I want the business to come in and guide them and teach them how easy it is and inspire them to make change. And then the other part of it is just tell somebody else about it, because word of mouth is just so powerful, isn't it? You know, it's every time somebody shares something on social media, it's the best thing for us. It's so easy for the fact that we can have a conversation like this on a podcast like this. I already know that change is on its way. And the fact that the shop can open on a busy high street, thrive, already tells me change is underway, because I'm not needing really to work that hard to market Ripple anymore. I didn't have to do it in the beginning. They showed up and were waiting outside for a shop like this to open. So I'm sure that if more people had access to this, more people would understand why it's so important. And it's not really a when things will change. It's not really if it will change. It is when it will change. So I feel like I'm either on the good side, or I'm kind of just waiting to be on the good side. It's not really a choice anymore.
And I guess you're providing the how.
Yeah, because once you realise the why, and that's all it is, find your why. And I think this is just so across the board on all business and all stages of life. If you find the why, you work really hard to protect it, which means Dr. Carl Major always used to say, she said a few times on Instagram, she talks about if you find your why and your love, then you will protect it. So if you love the ocean and that is your reason and that's your drive, you will find a way to protect it. If you love the trees, you don't chop down the rainforest. If you love, down to kind of like, if you love the children, you don't want to see them suffering. So I feel like finding the why is finding the love, and then finding the love is normally finding the drive. And it's the drive that keeps people motivated. It keeps them from thinking, God, this is just too much hard work. It doesn't feel like hard work when you know you're doing it for the right reason and for a good reason, which is why probably my work and how hard I work for this doesn't feel too taxing on me. It feels like it actually restores me. Being in the shop is very, very, very energizing. Being around people who want to talk to me all day about making good change and positive change, it feels very, very, it's very addictive to stay in the shop and want to keep passing on that message. And then somebody else leaves and they'll come back in a few weeks later and they'll be like, I brought my mum, I brought my sister, I brought my friend when they were visiting. It's so lovely. It just means that they're proud to want to tell people they shop like this. And then pride is infectious, isn't it? And empathy is infectious. When you have empathy for a business that's doing well, you want to keep it thriving. I think that's just really what good business does now. I feel like most people are cottoning on to the fact that, and businesses in general, they've massively underestimated how intelligent the consumer is. Like, we can't be lied to anymore. And if you try, I generally think they're calling you out quite quickly now as a brand. If you say we're doing something green or something eco, you best really be doing it really well, because somebody will ask you a question, and if you can't answer it, woe betide. Like, I feel like most businesses now, if you're going to make a conscious change, really make the change. Otherwise, I think you're just going to get tripped up.
Because you're expanding as well.
Yeah, we are.
And what's next for Ripple after this kind of expansion?
Oh my gosh. Well, the expansion in itself is huge. We're tripling our size by taking on a double unit next door.
So you're tripling in size?
Yeah, I guess so, within 11 months of business. So
Wow.
it just goes to show how the city really has taken it on board. And when people ask me about kind of not-for-profit, that is what the profit is doing. The profit, because obviously the business still makes profit. That's sustainable business. We can't be sustainable unless we're making profit. But I'm not keeping the profit. The profit has stayed in the business, and now it's done so well that I can commit in a really dodgy climate in terms of the market at the moment. You know, I have no idea what Brexit's going to do. Our suppliers might drastically change in the next few months. But I've decided that I know that there's still enough of a call for this in our city. But yeah, I've taken a bit of a huge leap in the last few weeks, and yeah, we're expanding next door, and I hope that means that there will be more space to bring in even more fantastic products, expand the offering of what we offer out of plastic, bring in more ethical fashion, more beauty products, zero waste beauty. I've got a real passion for, so being able for people to make their own beauty ingredients and products would
How
be
does
cool.
that work then?
I guess the idea of being able to buy bulk shea butter, or being able to buy bulk powders so people can make their own natural deodorants at home. I think, the best way to reduce single-use items is to be able to make it yourself. If you don't need to go out and buy it ready-made for you, imagine you could do that yourself.
Will you be doing how-to lessons as well?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I won't
or
be.
how-to videos?
I won't be, but I will certainly be bringing in very, very creative people who this is their skills. I'd love the idea of having more events and being able to open up the shop space to people who have like-minded businesses who want to use it as a space to launch something or
just educate
yeah,
people, isn't
absolutely.
it?
I
'Cause
mean,
think that's
we
what
get
you
loads of
said.
eco councils in at the moment from primary schools in the city, and it's just the most reassuring thing to think, oh God, that's the generation that's going to keep this going. It's so, I know you've got, your boy, and I just think, God, if he is in charge of this, if their passion and their intrigue and their need and necessity to do more was in government position at the moment, we'd all be fine. So I love having the children in there. It's such a tactile shopping experience. They get to pull levers and use scoop bins, and
He loves it.
It's fun for adults. So I mean, the kids are just having a great time. So hopefully we can expand the offering. Well, we will expand the offering. We'll bring in lots of fridge and freezers next door, so we'll be able to bring in lots of unpackaged frozen foods, which is huge because lots of people buy all their stuff obviously still in unrecyclable bags from the freezer section of supermarkets. It's all in my head at the moment because again I didn't have a business plan, but I mean it worked last time. I'm just sure it'll work again. So yeah, it's I mean we're aiming, I don't, by the time this goes out we might have already opened, but I'd really like to be able to get open in time for Christmas because the goal is to have something from Ripple in every stock-in Cardiff. Wouldn't that be amazing if there was a little sustainable stock-in filler in everyone's Christmas Day this year? That would be pretty sweet. So
that's an amazing goal, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm going to work really hard to get this up and running really quickly. I had no social life before. I definitely won't have any for the next few weeks, but I love it.
So what do you want your legacy to be and maybe Ripple's legacy to be? Because those might be two separate things.
They're probably not very different at the moment. I am so Ripple.
Sophie Ripple.
I am Sophie Ripple. My God.
As I made the mistake.
I should call myself that. I am such a part of this. And I think people really like seeing the face behind a business. I think there's something very human about seeing me try, fail, succeed. There's something reassuring about a woman doing that as well. A woman doing that in business. I would like the legacy of Ripple to be, I was going to say forgotten, because actually I don't really want Ripple to be needed for forever. I like the idea that it might give me a landing platform and a spring to have a greater platform to talk about what values I care about. But really, the actual concept of the business as it is, I want it to have an expiry date. I really do want it to not be needed forever. Otherwise, like I said, something's just gone really wrong. If I'm still on Albany Road in 10 years selling oats, something's definitely not, the message has not got through enough, really. I'd like the legacy to be that just try and do something. Do something, I guess, is the legacy, because even if something is do a bit of research, pass on a message, tell somebody else about it, buy one thing. My legacy is, I don't know what my legacy is yet. I don't think I'd know that yet. But I mean, I'm wearing it on my t-shirt, but I guess be kind would hopefully be my legacy. Don't be a dick is the other, which is just the alternative to.
Is that written on your back?
Yeah, it should be. One of the team's mantras is generally just don't be a dick, because if you're not, you're probably looking out for somebody and you're probably coming from a better place. You're probably doing something for a better reason. So that's one way when we're talking to children, we say be kind, and if we're talking to adults, we just say don't be a dick. I wouldn't mind that being my legacy. And just, I find business very easy if I'm staying true to myself. When I start doing things for other people or fall into the trap of what business should look like, something normally goes wrong. And when I come back to what did I want my business to look like? How do I want to feel each night when I go to sleep? Did I put something good out into the world? That normally redirects me back onto a better path. Because as I'm learning, as I go along, I make mistakes. I listen to bad advice. And there's lots of people wanting to give me advice at the moment. So it's not all, it's not very easy, I should say, to ignore tradition, because tradition dictates normally how the next generation turn up. So every time I say, I don't really think I want to do it that way, there's a 99% of the population going, no, back in your box, stick to what we know. Change is really uncomfortable for society, for anybody. Governments don't like it. Communities really don't like it. Neighbours, your next door neighbour won't really like it if you suddenly change how how you show up in your house. So I just think it's very difficult to tell people that change is actually ultimately good for them, and it will be uncomfortable. Sit in the discomfort, because we've put ourselves into a position now with the planet and humanity in general where we've not really listened to the warning signs, and now we're having to kind of fast backtrack. And it's not easy. Like, nothing comes out of comfortable conversations with this. Nothing. If you're comfortably making changes, you probably could be making more change. If you're like, yeah, that's really easy, boom, there's probably something else you could be doing. So I would ask, I'd ask more people to get uncomfortable. Strap yourselves in. You probably need it.
Now, on the kindness front, you're wearing a lovely Be Kind t-shirt.
I am, yeah.
What's one of the kindest things that you've ever done for someone or seen someone do?
Oh my gosh, what a question. The kindest thing I think I've ever done was to myself or to other people. Which one would you say? What do you want? To myself?
Could be both, yeah, because both are important.
The kindest thing I've ever done to myself is give myself the time to rest. It didn't happen for many, many years. I did a lot of people pleasing. I tried to fit in lots of groups that I didn't really need to. And I burnt out many, many times in my 20s, which affected my mental health and affects personal health. And we're seeing now that epidemic of people just hitting burnout because they're just not resting like they should do. They're staying on the treadmill for far too long. The kindest thing I ever did to myself was fill my own cup so that I can then show up every single day. And the business is definitely reflective of that. Once I'm good to myself, everybody else benefits. The team, the shop, the community, they all have a better version of me. The kindest thing I've ever done for anyone else, be honest. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but the kindest thing I think you can do is honesty. I'm very vulnerable in how I show up in relationships, in business, in life. And it's quite intimidating for other people to be around somebody that honest. But I do have tact, I was going to say. I feel like I do it well, but I also think the kindest thing I can do is normally be honest with somebody. I find it hugely difficult at the moment with Cardiff City Centre and the homeless situation. I feel like I could bring somebody home to have a hot shower and a hot meal every single night, which I've never ever gone to that level, but I do a lot, as much as I can. But it's very, very disheartening at the moment to see our city centre in such dire need of help. So random acts of kindness like that I'm always doing, but that's just because I can't pass. I can't walk by. Something tugs me to just give to something that's, give something that doesn't really mean a lot to me. To give, a pound or two for me is the difference between a hot meal or something for somebody else. So in that sense, there's that kind of martyrdom kind of acts of kindness, but on a base level, just showing up and being honest, I guess, is the kindest thing I normally do. They don't hear it all the time, but it normally comes back and they're like, oh, glad you told me that. But at the time, it's hard to hear. But,
What does success mean to you?
Oh, God. Success. I've sat with this quite a bit over the last few months because success, I'm now leading a very successful business. And on the surface, lots of people would tell me that it's successful already. But it kind of goes back to what it was set out to do. So we're not yet successful because in my head, the idea of the message that I wanted more people to be able to shop like this is definitely happening. But the success would be the closure.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's an odd success.
It's huge,
it's like when
it's
the
really
shop
weird.
closes.
The success would be we're no longer needed. So success for Ripple looks like that. Success for me personally was that I didn't let go of my own values to do that. So that I stayed true to how I wanted to show up in business, which at the moment I'm true to how I wanted to be. And that might mean that we could have done a lot more in the last year in terms of the opportunities that might have come my way. Might have mean we could have expanded quicker, but I said no to them because it didn't feel in alignment with how I wanted the business to be. Lots of people would ask me for a product and I'd think, oh, I don't actually think that's a very good product, but they'd seen it. It's maybe being advertised by an influencer on Instagram. But actually, when you do a lot more research, so sometimes success is telling the customer you're not right, which is hugely, hugely a triggering point for lots of marketing companies, because they'll just say the customer is always right. But right now, the customer actually doesn't know what they want. They don't actually know.
They need direction.
Yeah,
from people
they don't
like yourselves.
actually know that what they're buying is not good for the planet. They don't know actually that they've been lied to by huge advertising campaigns. So success sometimes is just going to bed knowing I said no to somebody, that I feel good about that. And I think even if they might not like me, or they might come at me on social media or something like that, it's reminding me that there's a big, big hurdle to do here with sustainability. Like, we have to effectively unlearn everything we've been taught for a long time. And that social conditioning runs real deep, really, really deep. That kind of me and my own culture, as long as we're all protected, my little house, my holiday, my beach that I go on each year, that kind of my car, that's going to take many, many years to kind of shift us all out into, is it good for everybody? So I feel like success for me would keep looking like I didn't let that go. But the business, the success is its closure. Yeah. Which feels odd to say, actually. Yeah, it feels really weird. But yeah, that's probably what success would look like for Ripple anyway.
So you're going to have another project eventually then.
That will present itself, I'm sure, when I'm ready. But if I think about that right now, I'll drown in my to-do list. But right now, I'm just really creatively stimulated by the job and by the team and by the community who keep showing up for it. So I'll just stay on my path at the moment, doing what I can, and then hopefully it will inspire other people to do what they can. And then I think it won't all be on my shoulders to make change. It'll be up to everybody to realize that, we all have the power to make big change. So
I think kudos to you, because you're an amazing force for good. And
thanks, Matt.
You're inspiring lots of people, and you are creating change, which is brilliant. Yeah. So where can people find out about Ripple and yourself?
So the bricks and mortar of the shop is 102 Albany Road in Roath in Cardiff. Come find us. We are only closed on a Monday, otherwise we're open 6 days a week. Online, we are at Ripple_living on everywhere. And I am at Rae, RAE _Soph on Instagram if you want to message me. But otherwise, we're just on social media. We haven't done any other kind of big advertising or big marketing, so social's the way to go.
And what about for anyone who's based around the UK or around the world? What should people be kind of searching for? Or is there a portal even where people can find out?
We're having a website made now, only just now, 11 months in, because I just have another time, which will have lots more easier access routes to be able to get hold of us, whether you have a product that you want to have stocked in Ripple, or you just want to talk about what we've done. That will hopefully go live in the new year. So, but yeah, Instagram is still the best way people normally contact me, and I can then share more details about how I can help normally when they message me. So still just online. Or come and talk to us in the shop. I love talking to people. So
should people, say if they're in Bristol or in Edinburgh, should they be searching for someone like Zero Waste Edinburgh and seeing what's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the best words to be searching for?
Yeah, and there's also a fantastic website at the moment called Zero Waste Near Me, where basically you can put your postcode in and you can pretty much... I think I've got that right. And you can certainly put your postcode in now and it'll tell you exactly where your nearest kind of refill station might be. And it might not be a dedicated shop like Ripple. It might just be a long-standing business has decided to bring in a section, like a deli or something like that. Might have just brought in and lots of supermarkets, well, I say lots, a few supermarkets are starting to trial this. So if you're close to one of the places that they're trialing, I mean, make the most of it. And then tell them you're really enjoying seeing it, because they will wait to see if consumers like the change before they put it out into their nationwide stores. So if you're near kind of, I think Waitrose in Reading or something has done it, if you're near that, you really should be going in and telling them this is fantastic, because they will pass that feedback on to the CEOs at the top. And that's when they'll know, this is not going anywhere. We need to bring this into every store across the UK. So the power is definitely with us in terms of the people. So power to the people.
Okay, last question after those brilliant words.
Blimey.
So imagine all your friends and family are by a beach, looking out to the sea and
no
the blue
plastic
sky.
on the beach.
No plastic on the beach, yes. And you've hired, I don't know, can you have an eco plane? It could
I
be
don't know yet.
It could be a
How
paraglider.
far
We normally
in the
have a
future are we?
plane.
Okay.
But it could be a paraglider, zero energy.
Okay. In a dream world, yeah.
And it's carrying a nice message that you've hired with your words of wisdom, these kind of final words of wisdom. What would it say on that?
If it wasn't be kind, because that seems to sum up pretty much everything I do.
You can have several planes as well. People have a few.
Oh, well, I'll try and keep the one for the emissions. we'll just have one big log, one huge banner instead. The second thing I would say, which I remind myself of daily and remind other people of around me daily, is you are worthy. It feels all-encompassing in how other people will show up in their lives. Most of the time, I think we make mistakes or don't do something or regret something because we've had that which I know everybody has always felt, that innate feeling of just, surely I can't do that. But I'm kind of on the other side of feeling that, and I actually feel it more now than ever, because the more responsibility I get, the more I doubt myself that I can do it. And the bigger the life choices and the bigger the business decisions and the more money we're playing with in terms of how the business does, I always think to myself, Jesus, Soph, like, you cannot do this. But those 3 words normally just remind me that if Richard Branson started somewhere or Maya Angelou started somewhere, all these people I think of, the difference normally is mindset. And I think the mindset I need to remind myself and the people around me, because then we all thrive together, is generally just you are worthy of it. Whether that's a relationship, a job, a house, a feeling, you're worthy of all of it. So I'll put that on my banner. That'll be what's on my trailing eco plane, which nobody's yet made. If you want to make an eco plane, crack on. I'll be the first to buy my ticket. Yeah,
I love it. Sophie Rae from Ripple, thank you very much.
It's
been an absolute pleasure. You're an amazing human. Keep on spreading the joy.
Keep on keeping on.
Yes, thank you very much.
I will.
Hooray!
Hooray!